Good day and welcome to the Auxillary Services Back to School video series. My name is Scott Denton and I'll be your host. Our goal is to provide information that will ensure a smooth start to our school year for the 2017-18 year. Thank you so much for joining us. There's much to discuss, so let's get started. This segment of our Back to School video will focus on risk management services. With me today are Mary Weathers to my right, from Risk Management Services, and also Mr. Greg Roberts. Both are staff members in Risk Management Services, and a special guest today to my left is Mr. Mike Webb from the Durham Fire Marshal's Office. I welcome all three of you to our session this morning. So we're going to kick off and get started to talk about fire drills. That's been a challenge this year. Many folks remember that we had some news coverage about fire drills and some schools were not compliant, and so I wanted to kick off this morning with one of the most because we know up front that the news is coming back. We know that news stations are going to come and ask us how we've been in compliance and how well we've done since the last time we actually checked on things. I've asked Mike to come this morning to talk about fire drills, and Mike, start out by talking about what the legal requirement for a fire drill is and the timing of when those fire drills are expected to take place.
One of the legal things that we have on the fire drills is it has to be done within the first 10 days of school of when the school session starts. At that point, you need to have them done at least once a month before the end of the month. We try to explain to the principals not to allow the fire drills to be scheduled at the last day of the month due to circumstances to make them miss it.
So it'd be good if, I guess there are a couple things in that. One, what we're saying is that fire drills are due if you are in school 10 days in any month during the year, even if it's summer school, you have to do a fire drill for that month.
Yes, sir.
And we're also saying that we prefer that when you're in a full month, that you execute the fire drill within the first 10 days of that month.
Yes.
We had a few instances this year where some fire drills were missed because the principal had scheduled them toward the end of the month, and then testing came up or whatever else happened, as life goes, and those fire drills were missed because some other events came up. So if they're scheduled for the first 10 days, that's much less likely to happen.
Yes.
And I think the third thing that you just said was that we need to make sure that within the first 10 days of school that we have a fire drill.
Yes.
So what that looks like is if you don't do one for August because school starts August 27th, then you have to do one in the first 3 or 4 days of September.
That's
because
correct.
to get inside that 10-day window, you'll have to do one that first 3 or 4 or 5 days of September that you're in school.
Yes. So what I've told a lot of the principals doing inspections this past season is with school starting as late as it is this year, if they do one in August, that's fine, but they have to do one in September. So August is one of those optional. If you can get it in those first couple days, that's great, but we will expect you to do one in September.
Outstanding. Mike, talk about when you go out to schools, what you've seen in schools that might be violations of the fire code and how important it is to sort of be in compliance with those issues.
Some of the things that I've seen have been, the biggest thing has been the lack of compliance with fire drills and fire drill reports, the principal's fire drill report forms. Even if they don't do the fire drills, they still are required to do the fire drill inspection forms that they have inspections twice a month to take care of. That is not an option. There's general statutes attached to it that state that the principal shall do it.
And that's a walk-around inspection.
That's a walk-around inspection, checking fire extinguishers, exit doors, hallways, emergency lights, and some additional items that's on the list, and ensuring that the safety of the students and the staff, it should be their number one priority. And I understand that, education and a lot of the testing takes priority over a lot of stuff, but you can't overlook the safety. The other things that I've looked at have been, I'm still finding propane buffers with the propane tanks attached to the buffers inside the school, which we have tried to take care of and explain to them that you can't have that kind of stuff inside the school during school hours. Other than that, it's been this year has been very minor stuff, from emergency evacuation plans missing off the walls to an occasional door not being operational.
So the actual fire drill forms, we'll go back to that for a second. Those are required, and they must be sent to Risk Management Services, and we do send those to the superintendent. That's something that our school board policy requires us to do. So we are sending every month, around the 5th of each month, the report from the prior month that shows compliance or noncompliance. So We're not trying to be mean-spirited about it, but we are very serious about the safety
Yes.
of our students and our staff, and this is one way to ensure that safety.
Absolutely, and that document, once it's sent to you and to the superintendent, that becomes a public document. The public can ask for it, and the media can definitely ask for it to see what's going on, and if we are in compliance with stuff, because this is a big issue that's actually going across the state, which is why we've been in a lot of meetings to try to see how can we fix this problem? How can we help the school system get into compliance with the fire drills?
NBC 17, I believe that was the station that did the story on us, and I believe Wake was also on that story.
Absolutely.
And so we want to always project the best foot forward for Durham Public Schools, but we also want to make sure the safety aspects are followed as well.
And it's one of the things that we want to make sure that everybody understands from the fire marshal standpoint is we are not your enemy. We are trying to help you. We're trying to protect you. We're trying to protect the schools and everybody else. And some of the things that we ask, especially with the forms being signed and ensuring that the forms are done, is to protect the school system and to protect the principals and the staff themselves.
Listen, we really appreciate the partnership we have with the Fire Marshal's Office. We thank you for coming on the video this morning.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts that you might have?
If they have any questions, I would love it if they don't hesitate to call us. Call you guys or call us, and that way we can get those questions answered as quickly as possible, so that there's no lack in the compliance issues.
Outstanding. Once again, thank you so much for coming on board with us this morning.
Thank you.
So we'll transition a little bit to involve Mary and Greg on this conversation. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
So talk about things that risk management, really important things that folks need to know about risk management for school opening.
Well, there are quite a number of procedures that are required other than fire drills and fire inspections in the schools. March historically in North Carolina has been deemed as Severe Weather Awareness Month because it's likely from the transition from spring to summer to fall. Those are the times of year that we typically see severe weather outbreaks in North Carolina. So during the month of March, the schools are required to do one tornado drill. Now, the schools can opt to do more than one drill if they prefer to, but they're required to do one at a minimum each school year.
And isn't that date established by the state on
It-
what day that's going to be conducted on?
Yes, sir, it typically is. This year, it was scheduled on March 8th, and historically, I think it's been the first or second week of the month that it's been done. We had some issues this year because there were some testing, and we have campuses that are off of DPS property as a part of other, like NCCU, where we have early college. That sometimes we have a little coordination issues, but if you can't do it on the day that it's specified to do, you're still required to do it that month. So there is some leeway there in the event you have testing or something else of that nature going on. You can opt not to do it that day, but it still has to be done in the month of March. And once that form is done, they can go to the employee portal under the Risk Management Services section, under Operational Services, and they can document the report. And there's also an evaluation form on there, so they can see how well things went, what worked well, what didn't work well, and that will provide feedback to them for their next drill that they
I'm glad you
have.
mentioned the employee portal because the employee portal contains so much information.
It contains the vast majority of what risk management does, as well as transportation and other sections of auxiliary services.
I know we had instances this year of bed bugs.
Certainly.
We had instances of lice reported in schools. And
Correct.
so all those procedures are online on our employee portal, and we update that information every year.
Correct.
To make sure it is the latest information we can possibly provide. It will be ready to go for the 2017-18 school year.
Correct.
Talk about lockdown drills. That's the other portion of the drills aspect of things that we need to talk about. Talk about lockdown drills, what's required, when they're required.
Okay. The schools are required to do 2 lockdown drills per year, and we encourage them to do more if possible. Lockdown drills are to be done in the first part of the school session and then after the Christmas break. That gives everyone an idea and an understanding of what their role is during a lockdown process and what an actual lockdown consists of. They can also go to the website. There's information on the website regarding how to conduct it, what to do, what's the general practice in doing this, as well as the actual drill itself. And it needs, again, to be recorded on the portal, on the website, on the eForm site, to ensure that we have a copy or that there is an electronic copy out there in the event that they lose or misplace their copy.
So if schools need help with lockdown drills, they can call us.
Absolutely.
And we'll go out and we'll help conduct the drill, we'll help assess the drill.
Sure.
Usually law enforcement's also involved in that,
Sure,
if they have an
SRO
SRO on
officers.
campus.
Correct.
So-
We are available to help. Just give us a heads up, give us a timeframe and, that we can work in, and we'll help you any way we can.
One final issue, Greg, that comes to mind from the fire marshal's office is they also provide radios, emergency radios for us.
That is
And
correct.
we are, we have agreed with the county to replace the emergency radios with newer models. That was something that the county is doing countywide. And because our radios are getting older, we chose to participate with them. So as part of that rollout, we'll be visiting campuses this summer, to conduct our risk management assessment. Most all our principals had a visit from one of you two last year. We'll be following up on those visits that we had from last year, looking at the things that may have needed improvement at the time, and also delivering those radios during those visits.
That's correct. We typically, we have maintained the radios, the district radios for all the schools in the district. If there were issues with batteries or operation of the radio, we would go out, take a look, change batteries. If it was not a battery issue, then we would provide a temporary radio for them, take the radio to the radio repair shop and see if it could be repaired, obviously, and put back into service. This year, we are going to update and upgrade the radios, which will have a longer shelf life. The older models we currently have about reached the peak of their life span. There will no longer be parts available for them after a certain date, so it just made practical sense to move forward to a newer system. But in the event that you get these radios, we will support that. And as a part of that, these radios need to be on during the day, throughout the school day. There should be one person assigned as the primary user and then one person assigned as the backup user.
Or more.
Or more, correct. But a minimum of two. The more the merrier, obviously, because the more coverage you have. The idea is that someone can hear that radio at all times during the day, and it's typically maintained at the front desk where the secretaries are, or where the people come in off the street to talk about students or staff or what have you.
One of the issues that we've had with radios in the past has been that the radio batteries didn't last very long.
Correct.
And I think there was a process we had to use, and we recommended to schools to say, when you leave for the day, put your radio back in the charger and take it off the charger in the morning when you get to school, and leave it off during the daytime.
Correct. When school is recessed for the day, the radio should be turned off and put back in the charging cradle. When you return in the morning, one of the first things you need to do after you've gotten yourself situated is to take the radio off the charge base, turn it on, make sure it's functioning properly. If it's not, that's when you need to give us a call, Mary or myself, and we will come out and take a look at the unit and see perhaps even new batteries can be faulty. They're lithium batteries, and you're going to get a bad one periodically. So, yes, they need to be turned off and recharged nightly.
So part of the radio distribution project is to collect the old radios as well. So when we visit campuses, we'll be looking to not only deliver the new radios, but we'll also be collecting the old radio to turn back in. I think the county received preferential pricing by doing that. So
That's true.
it'll
Yes,
be a two-function kind of process when we go out to
It will be.
schools to make sure that the radios are taken care of.
It will be. And hopefully the radios will be available when we start our campus visits. If not, we will provide those radios one way or another to school locations.
Outstanding. Mary, let's transition a bit to talk about AEDs in schools. You know, last year, I believe it was, we finished our project of implementing and placing AEDs in every school. Talk about that project a little bit and things that folks need to be aware of about the AED project.
We have AEDs in all of the schools, and some of the high schools and middle schools, we have more than one. We have AEDs in all the central service buildings. There's an AED coordinator assigned at each school who handles the monthly inspection. That's done through a program called AccuTrack. They do the monthly inspections, and then I'm in touch with them every month regarding reminding them about inspections, or if they have pads that are in the AED that are expiring, to remind them about the pads are expiring, here's how to order new pads.
Of course,
So-
now, I'll stop you there and say
Yes,
the
sir.
AEDs are a defibrillation device.
Right.
They help to save lives when CPR may not work.
Right.
And they're computer programmed to know when to administer an electrical shock to the heart in the event of cardiac arrest. Is that a fair description of what they are?
Yeah, and they're in the back of the bag, there's also a DVD that shows exactly how to use the particular model that you have at your school. We also have that same DVD loaded on our employee portal, risk management employee
So
portal.
we encourage as many people that can review that video to watch that video, because it's very short and it's very informative, and it could save a life at some point in time. So we encourage that. We're very pleased that we have AEDs in our schools, and we're excited that they're out there.
And you don't have to be certified in CPR to use an AED. I mean, they're on the walls at malls and all sorts of places, so you don't have to be certified in CPR to use it.
So, speaking of safety, I think about safe schools training as well. You assign safe schools training for our district, and there are certain required trainings that are assigned. And then I want to talk about accident tracking as well, something that's new for us with safe schools, because we were using an old accident tracking. We actually transitioned from paper to a Google Forms solution last year. And as part of the growth of that particular implementation, we decided to go ahead and go with the Safe Schools application. Captures basically the same information, but it allows us some additional flexibility. Talk about what the advantages of the new accident tracking system will be.
Okay. Well, first of all, as far as Safe Schools goes, we do have a Safe Schools training. It's an online training program. Schools or principals can call me and request certain trainings to be assigned per school or per job title. So we have availability to be able to do that and assign it to either a certain school, job titles across the school system, what have you. So we have some pretty good flexibility as far as that's concerned. Employees are notified by email if they are assigned a course, so that comes up that way. As far as the new student accident tracking program, that has started already with 5 pilot schools. It seems to be going really well. We've gotten some great feedback from those pilot schools. We are in the process of doing some training with everyone else, the folks at the school that are in charge of the student or volunteer or visitor accidents. We're involved in doing some training coming up soon on those, and they'll be able to track the student accidents as far as by school or by type of accident. We'll be able to have that information.
And we'll be able to do some trending analysis work as well to see where our accidents are occurring, what type of accidents we're having, and hopefully be able to focus our efforts on some prevention measures to
Right.
keep some accidents from happening. I think the other thing to remind our viewers of is that the implementation will be relatively easy. There's not a lot of training that has to take place. It's very intuitive. We don't want to create extra work for our schools, but we do want solutions in our systems that allow us to keep track of the things that we need to keep track of and do a good job of managing that process. And I think this particular step forward from the Google form to the Safe Schools application will accomplish that goal.
And one of the exciting things about it is we're one of the first school systems in the country to use this program. And so we're pretty excited about that.
I'm looking forward to the results it's going to provide. Talk about our checklist that when we got to schools, and we mentioned that a little while ago. Go a little bit more into detail about the checklist that we use at schools and what we'll be doing this summer to try to make sure we're getting schools into compliance. And this compliance word is not 4 letters. It's a word that many of us don't like because it requires some work. But it's also, just as we talked about with the fire marshal, it's something that we have to ensure that schools are abiding by rules for safety. Talk about that a little bit for us.
Yeah, we'll be coming around to each school, going through a risk management checklist. Again, it's just a list of items that we get a lot of questions about during the school year. And so it's to help principals or assistant principals at the school just kind of get some basic information about what's expected as far as drilling requirements go, some of the things that Greg already talked about lockdown drills, tornado drills, and that sort of thing.
And a big one is a Cert Plan.
Yeah, and the Cert Plans too. So I think we're going to talk more about that. And it's, but yeah, so it's just a way for us to go through some of the items that we get a lot of questions about to make sure that everyone has the same information and has information they need to get a good school year started.
Greg, talk a little bit about the Cert Plan process and the importance of completing the Cert Plan. Fortunately, we've not had a lot of major instances in our schools when it comes to activating a Cert Plan. But should it become available, we'll really appreciate having those Cert Plans in place.
Absolutely. We, Scott, we've been blessed that we've not had major issues with school systems here in the district. However, the Cert Plan is designed as a tool rather than a task that the school can use to notify the people that are engaged in that process during the event of an emergency, either inside the school or in the vicinity of the school. Everybody knows what their task is. The CERT is basically an acronym for the Campus Emergency Response Team. You know, what's my job in the event that we have some sort of major event or, God forbid, a catastrophic event. So it's a document that they can refer to. They can put their hands on it very quickly, and they can identify the custodian's role, the treasurer's role, the IT manager's role. The principal is obviously at the top of that chart because they are ultimately responsible for all the activities at the school and the safety of not only students but staff as well. The SRO officers that might be located at the campus, what is their role? So it's very important that we do that. And the CERT plans need to be done each school year, either by the first day of school or no later than the first week of school. We are experiencing currently a little glitch in the CERT program that you can access on the e-form section of our website, and we are trying to work through those glitches to make sure that it's operational. Worst case scenario, if we don't get it fixed in time for school to start, we can distribute hard copies, blank CERT documents that the schools will need to fill out. They will need to give them to their personnel. They will need to maintain one in the front office in what we call the black box or the emergency preparedness box, as well as forward a copy of that to Lisa Young over at Hamlin Road. That being said, another thing with the forms, the fire inspection forms, it's a two-page document. The schools need to retain the green copies of the fire drills for the fire marshal's review, and they also need to forward a hard copy to risk management, Lisa Young again, over at Hamlin Road, so we can maintain those for our files. So that way we don't have to contact the schools in the event that there is a request for fire drills and fire inspections and what have you. We'll have those on hand. But we are going to work through the CERT issues because it is a critical component of safety of everyone on our campus.
So we're going to ask during our campus visits that an administrator or their designee,
Exactly.
principal or designee, sit down with you all and go through the CERT plan with you to ensure we have 100% compliance on being ready to go for school, which means by the first day of school.
Correct.
And so if principals, if you have a large school and you have an AP that you want to assign this task, that's perfectly fine. We just need to make sure that we have a CERT plan in place for everybody.
And historically, the principals do pass that down the food chain because they have so many other responsibilities, and that's perfectly fine as long as we know who that person is. But ultimately, the principal is the head liaison.
And responsible.
And responsible for all the activities that goes on their campus.
Outstanding. So we've talked about several things this morning. One of the things that the Risk Management Services offers is inspections when there are problems on campus. We had several issues this year with alleged mold in classrooms and or in buildings. We've had some issues with playground equipment. That's a service that we provide. We'll go out and we will look at the equipment. We'll look at the room. We have some ways to measure humidity, take a look at the circumstance, see if remediation is necessary, and we work well with our maintenance department to try to make sure that any issues we identify are remediated. Any further comment about that process?
Well, no, but the bottom line is we're available to assist the schools with any safety and health-related issue. We will come out and do inspections of facilities that might have moisture issues or might have mold concerns, that kind of thing. We're also available to come out and look at other hazards associated with schools, tripping hazards, slip, trips, falls, whatever the situation may be, as well as the playground equipment. We want to provide a safe environment for our kids to play. Historically, kids get hurt on good school playground systems because they're playing. Kids get hurt, but we want to ensure that the playground equipment is safe to use.
And they're not hurt from something that would cause
Exactly.
injury that we could control.
Exactly. They're not hurt because we have defective equipment or something is wrong with the equipment itself. But there are a number of different things that the schools can reach out to us for. Anything that's safety and health related, we'll be glad to help them with.
I want to say thank you to both of you for coming on this morning and talking about risk management services. I also would like to close with making sure that folks do look at the employee portal. That information is updated again each year, and we want to make sure that it has good information out there for you to find, so that if you have an emergency and for some reason you can't contact us, which would be a rarity, but the information is there for your use. And at this point, I guess we'll close and say thank you very much for your attention to this video. And if you have questions, you may call the Risk Management Services Department, 919-560-3829. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.